Hola y bienvenidos a este video donde vamos a hablar sobre dónde vivimos. Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to talk about where we live. Now you may have seen previous videos that I've posted on my channel about whether you live in a house in the countryside or an apartment in the city or even the rooms inside of a house or a home. Now this video is a kind of broader look at where you live, looking at your local area and the sorts of things that someone might find there if they were to visit you. For example, a supermarket or a train station, a football stadium, a shopping centre, all those sorts of things that you might have or might not have in your local area. So we're going to have a look at that vocabulary and then look at how you can put that into a nice long paragraph talking about the things that there are where you live and the things that there aren't as well, and then giving an opinion about your town or city. Las metas de esta clase son aprender las palabras para diferentes lugares en el pueblo o en la ciudad, aprender a describir lo que hay donde tú vives y también poder describir lo que no hay y dar tu opinión. Now the first bit of vocabulary, the first phrase that we're going to need to know is en mi ciudad hay, en mi ciudad hay, and this means in my city there is or there are. So that word I, it doesn't change for singular or plural, so whatever you say after that, whether it's one thing or two things or many things, it just stays the same and it's pronounced I, like the English word I. Now if you live in a town rather than a city, or you live in a village, then you could say en mi pueblo hay, which means in my town there is. And then the first thing that there might be is un castillo, which is a castle. Now the double L in Spanish, it's sometimes pronounced as a y, castillo, sometimes as a j, castillo. In Argentina they pronounce it as castillo, but it's never a l sound, it's never like the single L, so it's never going to be castillo, so careful with your pronunciation of that one. Now I should say that it would be a good idea, as I'm going through all of this new vocabulary, that if you've got a pen and paper handy, or you've got your Spanish book, if you're a student watching this, that you maybe note some of this vocabulary down in Spanish and English. I know some people like to make flashcards with the Spanish on one side, the English on the back, or it might be that you just want to pause the video and practice saying each of these as I say it. So I'll say the word first, you can pause it and say it yourself, so that you can start to get the gist of the pronunciation. Now the next one is un mercado, which is a market. And if un mercado is a market, then un supermercado is a supermarket. Next we've got un estadio de fútbol. Or if you just want to refer to a stadium in general, un estadio. A shopping center or a mall is un centro comercial, kind of like a commercial center. Un centro comercial. Now, of course, if you're learning Spanish to speak in Spain, most people in Spain, they pronounce C's like this, C-E, and C-I like a th. So it would be un centro comercial. So either way is perfectly correct. It just depends on what accent you'd like to emulate. Un centro comercial, un centro comercial. Now, an airport is un aeropuerto. Un aeropuerto. And if we get rid of aero, un puerto means a port for ships and boats. So it might be that you've got an airport where you live, or a port, or you might have both. Now careful with the pronunciation of this one, because in English, like in the word air, where we've got two vowels next to each other, it tends to create just a different sound, but just one sound. In Spanish, you still have to pronounce each one separately. The same happens with euro, the currency of Spain. It's euro. 10 euros. Now if there's a station where you live, for example a train station, you can say una estación de, and then in the case of a train station it would be una estación de tren, train. If it's a bus station, then it might be una estación de bus or de autobús. If it's a tram station, una estación de tranvía. A coach station, una estación de autocar. So just like with un estadio de fútbol, un estadio de béisbol, feel free to change these things so that they better represent the place where you live. Now a sports centre is un polideportivo. Un polideportivo. You might also come across un centro de deportes, which is quite literally a centre of sports. So deportes means sports. You might have seen that in a video I did on free time. Deportivo means sports as an adjective, And poly, it's just like poly in English. We've got lots of words that use that. I think it might come from Greek. So poly just means several. So several sports, like we've got polyglots, people that speak several languages, polyamorous, people that love several people. So we do have similar words. It might help you to remember that one. Una piscina pública is a public pool or a public swimming pool. And of course you could just say una piscina. But it's useful to know that public, pública, público is a nice near cognate, really similar word for you to add to your vocabulary as well. Now a university is una universidad. Una universidad. Now there are a few things I'll say about this. First of all, the U sound. In English we say university. We say the U a bit like you. In Spanish it's more of a U sound. Now the same happens with music. We say music. In Spanish it's música. Okay, so that's something that catches native English speakers out quite a lot in Spanish. The second thing I'll say is that the DAD ending in Spanish, it's quite a common pattern that you'll start to see, that TY, words that end in TY, often end in DAD in Spanish. For example, liberty, libertad, university, universidad, activity, actividad, masculinity, masculinidad. There are a whole host of examples. I could probably go on forever, so I'll stop there. The other thing I was going to say about this is that when you've got DAD on the end of a word, it's not a hard D sound that it ends on. It's not universidad. It's more like a TH in English. Universidad. Dad. Okay, especially if you want to sound more native, it's a good thing to practice saying those more like a TH on the end, very softly. The same happens, people who live in Madrid, they don't say vivo en Madrid, they say vivo en Madrid. Okay, so again, it's a bit like a TH. Just a quick reminder, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it useful, please do hit that like button below. It really means a lot to me to know that people find these videos useful. And if you don't want to miss out on any of the future videos that I'll be posting, please do hit that subscribe button as well. Now we've had a look at quite a lot of new vocabulary, and so far everything I've given you has been singular. A swimming pool, and so on. Now it's probably quite straightforward, and you probably know that you could change una piscina, a swimming pool, for dos piscinas, and just add an S and use a number. But if you want to say some, for example, instead of un museo, a museum, you might want to say en mi ciudad hay unos museos, and this means some museums. And of course, if it was something like piscinas, which is feminine, it would be unas. So an example of how we could use this with another feminine noun is with some town squares, or some people do say plazas. Unas plazas, unas plazas, or in Spain they'd say unas plazas. Another thing, instead of saying there are two museums or some museums, we might want to say there are lots of. So with parque, park, we could make it plural, parques, and we could say there are muchos parques, there are lots of parks. And again, muchos can become muchas. Now if we want to say there are lots of restaurants, we could say muchos restaurantes. Muchos restaurantes. Now again with this one, it's very similar to aeropuerto in that the AU, we pronounce those separately. Restaurantes. Whereas in English we kind of put all that together. Or a lot of British English speakers just kind of get rid of it altogether. Restaurants. But restaurantes. Make sure you pronounce all of that word. Restaurantes. Now it's probably the case for something in your town or city where there's not just one of them, but there's also not many. So you don't want to use un or una, but you also don't want to use muchos or muchas. And in that context you could use bastantes, which means quite a few. Por ejemplo, bastantes tiendas, quite a few shops. Now you might have seen bastante before, for example in estoy bastante cansado, I'm quite tired. Used with an adjective it means quite. Used with a noun it means quite a few. And the good thing is because it ends in an E, it doesn't change. So whether you're using a noun which is masculine or feminine, like piscina or museos, plazas or parques, you can just keep bastantes exactly the same. Now let's quickly recap the phrase that we started off with before we learned all these pieces of vocabulary we could tag on the end of it. If you live in a city, you could say en mi ciudad hay. In my city there is or there are. Now to make negatives in Spanish, it's super easy. because all you do is you put no in front of the main verb. In this case, the verb is hay. So to say, in my city there is not, or there is no, we simply need to say, en mi ciudad no hay. So we've got, en mi ciudad hay, en mi ciudad no hay. And we can do exactly the same with, en mi pueblo hay, in my town or in my village, there is or there are. En mi pueblo no hay, in my town or my village, there isn't or there are no shops or there is no swimming pool, for example. Now at this stage in the video, it's good to have an opportunity to have a look at this vocabulary all together and make sure that it's starting to go in and we're starting to get to grips with it. So if you want to just go through the Spanish and make sure you can match it up with the correct piece of English vocabulary on the right hand side, then now's a great moment to pause the video and do so. And if you've got a piece of paper and a pen handy, or if your teacher's asked you to do this activity, then of course you can do this on paper or in your exercise book. Now, another opportunity for practice. What I'm going to do is show you how I would use this vocabulary to put together a sentence, a couple of sentences and a paragraph, and we'll pause it a couple of moments and have a look at whether you can translate. En mi ciudad hay unos museos, un mercado, una universidad y muchos restaurantes. Okay, so just pause the video and see if you can work out what that means in English. So we've got, in my city there are some museums, a market, a university, and many or lots of restaurants. So I've used a connective y, and. Now to extend on this even more, I'm going to use another connective. También hay una estación de tren y un castillo. So again, pause the video and work out what that sentence means. So here we've got, also, there is a train station and a castle. Now looking at how I can kind of contrast and say something, give some more information, but I've already talked about what there is. Now I'm going to talk about what there is not. Sin embargo, no hay ni piscina ni aeropuerto. This is a bit trickier. See if you can work out from the context what you think this means if you're unfamiliar with sin embargo and ni. So sin embargo, it's super useful. It means however. So I've said what there is. However is kind of the turning point in my paragraph where I'm then going to kind of contrast what I've already said. No hay, so again, just putting no in front of the verb, nice and easy to say there is no or there isn't any. Ni, it's kind of simpler in Spanish. In English we'd have to say neither nor. So there's neither a swimming pool nor an airport. However, there's neither a swimming pool nor an airport. Tampoco hay estadio de fútbol, nor is there a football stadium. So if I'm saying there's neither this nor that, I need to use ni first thing, ni second thing. However, if I'm saying nor is there and just one thing, I can say tampoco. Tampoco is basically the opposite of también. En mi opinión, mi ciudad es un poco aburrida. So we've seen lots of different vocabulary. We've had a chance to kind of make sure that vocabulary started to go in. I've modelled how to do a piece of writing. So now it's your turn to do a piece of writing about where you live, your town or your city, the things that there are, if someone were to come and visit you, the things that maybe they wouldn't find there. And I'm going to put my model kind of response up on the screen for you, as well as some useful vocabulary. So you can just leave this video paused as you're writing and use all of that to support you. Of course, you can always flick back to have a look at the ones that you might want to use. Make it your own, but hopefully everything's there that you need to write a really strong, really interesting paragraph about where you live. Before you go, I'm just going to quickly explain how to make the most of using Spanish with James. If you head over to the main channel, you'll find on the landing page that there are lots of different sections. There's a section for beginner Spanish with all of the beginners level videos. There's one for intermediate Spanish, advanced Spanish, and there's one for poetry as well. So it's all nicely organised so that you can find the videos that are right for you at where you're at on your Spanish journey. And again, if you haven't already done so, it'd mean a lot if you just very gently click that subscribe button. And that brings us to the end of the video. Muchísimas gracias por ver este video y espero que te vaya muy bien con el español.